A customer refused a tip, laughing, "Why should I? You're just doing your job." Minutes later, he realized he forgot his wallet and begged to pay later. I smiled sweetly and said, "Why should I cover you? I'm just doing my job." His face turned red as the manager stepped in and said, "No money, no food." I work at a small diner in downtown Chicago, right on the corner of Wabash and 8th. It's a cozy spot, nothing fancy, but we have our regulars and the occasional tourists who wander in. I've been serving tables here for the past 5 years, and I've seen all sorts of customers. But one particular evening stands out vividly in my memory. It was a chilly Thursday evening in early March. The wind was howling outside, and the warmth of the diner offered a comforting refuge to those seeking shelter from the cold. The dinner rush had just begun to taper off when he walked in. He was a tall man, probably in his late 40s, with salt and pepper hair neatly combed back. Dressed in a tailored navy blue suit, he exuded an air of confidence, the kind that often accompanies wealth. He chose a booth by the window, offering a view of the bustling street outside. I approached with a warm smile, menu in hand. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Mel's Diner. Can I get you something to drink to start?" He glanced up briefly, barely making eye contact. "Just water," he replied curtly. I nodded, jotting it down. "Certainly. Our specials tonight are meatloaf with mashed potatoes and grilled salmon with asparagus. Take your time to decide." He didn't respond, already engrossed in his phone. I turned away to fetch his water, giving him space to peruse the menu. A few minutes later, I returned to his table. He set his phone down and looked up. "I'll have the New York strip, medium rare, with a side of steamed vegetables." "Excellent choice," I said, noting it down. "Would you like any appetizers or perhaps a salad to start?" "No, just the steak," he replied, handing me the menu without another glance. As the evening progressed, the diner began to empty. The man remained engrossed in his phone, occasionally glancing up as I refilled his water. When his steak arrived, he ate methodically, not once expressing satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Finally, he finished his meal and beckoned me over. "The check, please." I retrieved the bill and placed it on the table. He pulled out a sleek black card holder, extracted a credit card, and handed it to me without a word. I processed the payment and returned with the receipt. He signed it swiftly, leaving the tip line conspicuously blank. As he handed it back, he smirked and said, "Why should I tip? You're just doing your job." His words stung. I maintained my composure, offering a tight-lipped smile. "Thank you, sir. Have a good evening." He stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and made his way to the door. As he reached for the handle, he paused, patting his pockets. A look of realization dawned on his face. He turned back, walking briskly toward me. "I seem to have left my wallet at home," he admitted, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. "I can leave my watch as collateral and come back tomorrow to settle the bill." I glanced at the Rolex on his wrist, undoubtedly worth more than my monthly rent. But before I could respond, our manager, Mr. Harris, approached, having observed the interaction. "Sir," Mr. Harris began, his tone firm yet polite, "I'm afraid we have a strict policy. No money, no food. We cannot accept personal items as collateral." The man's face flushed a deep shade of red. "But I assure you, I'll return first thing in the morning to pay." Mr. Harris shook his head. "I'm sorry, but that's our policy." The man turned to me, desperation creeping into his eyes. "Is there any way you could cover it? I'll reimburse you double tomorrow." I met his gaze, recalling his earlier remark. With a sweet smile, I replied, "Why should I cover you? I'm just doing my job." He opened his mouth as if to argue, but then closed it, realizing the irony of the situation. Without another word, he removed his watch and placed it on the table. "I'll be back tomorrow," he muttered before turning and exiting the diner. The next day, true to his word, he returned. He settled his bill and retrieved his watch. This time, he left a generous tip, accompanied by a note. Lesson learned. From that day on, he became a regular at the diner. And he always tipped generously. The man kept coming back. Every Wednesday like clockwork, right around 6:30 p.m., he'd walk in wearing another tailored suit and the same smug face. The only thing that changed was the tip, always generous, like he was making up for that first night. I'd nod politely, take his order, serve his food, refill his water. I didn't forget how he looked at me that first time, like I was beneath him. But I kept it professional. One night, about 3 weeks later, he came in looking different. Still well-dressed, but tense. His tie was loose, and he kept checking his phone. I could feel something off the moment he sat down. "Same steak?" I asked. He looked up at me for a beat longer than usual. "Yeah, medium rare." "Same sides." I nodded and walked back to the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I brought his food out, but he barely touched it. He kept glancing toward the door, fingers tapping on the table like a metronome. I tried to ignore it. People have bad days. Maybe he lost a client or got dumped. None of my business. But then a woman came in. She looked about his age, late 40s, sharp bob haircut, long beige coat. She scanned the room and locked eyes with him. Without a word, she marched to his booth and sat across from him. I could see their mouths moving, quiet but intense. Her arms crossed, his hands gesturing wildly. The kind of conversation that usually ends in slammed doors and broken dishes. I kept refilling coffees, checking on other tables, pretending not to watch. But my ears caught a few words. "So you lied about the money? What did you expect me to do? You embarrassed me in front of my lawyer." And then, clear as day, she said, "I'm not paying your debt." That hit different. She got up and walked out without touching him, without looking back. He sat there for a minute, motionless. Then he picked up his fork and started eating his steak like nothing happened. That was the second time he forgot his wallet. I didn't even ask this time. Just stood by the table and waited. He gave a tired laugh, leaned back in the booth, and said, "It's in my other coat." I said nothing, just raised an eyebrow and turned to get the manager. Mr. Harris came over, already annoyed. He folded his arms and said, "We've been through this." The man leaned forward, speaking low. "Can we talk in private?" Mr. Harris said no. The diner isn't the kind of place with back offices for shady deals. So he had to explain in front of everyone that his cards were declined. He didn't have cash, and he needed, just until tomorrow, to come back with payment. A couple of the regulars were watching now, pretending not to. I could feel the shift in the room. It wasn't just about the food. People were starting to remember him. Word travels in small places like ours. He turned to me again. "Look, you helped me out last time. Could you just—" I cut him off. "I didn't help you last time. You left your watch. You paid. That's not help. That's a transaction." His jaw clenched. "Right. Fine. Can I leave something again?" He didn't have his watch this time. He pulled out his phone. "This is a new iPhone." "It's worth." Mr. Harris shook his head. "Policy hasn't changed." That's when the twist hit. One of the customers, a quiet guy who usually sat at the counter reading the newspaper, stood up and walked over. I didn't even know his name. He wore thick glasses and always ordered black coffee, no cream, no sugar. He looked at the man and said, "You're Frank Delaney, aren't you?" The man froze. The quiet customer kept going. "Yeah, I thought so. I used to work at Sterling and Feldman. You were one of the partners before you got ousted. Embezzlement scandal, wasn't it?" Everyone in earshot went silent. I swear you could hear the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. The man, Frank, looked like he'd been slapped. "You were on the news," the guy added. "I remember now. You disappeared after the court date." Frank stood up slowly. "I'm not who you think I am." The guy just smiled. "You are. And if you're still dodging debts, I wouldn't be surprised if you're on the run." Frank's eyes darted to the door. Mr. Harris stepped in. "I think you should leave." "I can pay," Frank insisted, voice raised. "I'll be back tomorrow." "No," Mr. Harris said firmly. "You're not welcome back." Frank looked at me again, same desperation as the first time. But I just crossed my arms. He walked out that night with nothing. No food, no dignity. Just a room full of people staring him down. And that wasn't the end. Not even close. After Frank walked out, things calmed down in the diner, but something about that night stuck with me. The way he looked before leaving, not angry, not embarrassed, just empty. It wasn't the kind of face someone makes when they're caught in a lie. It was the face of someone who's already lost too much to care. A few days later, a plain white envelope showed up at the diner. No return address. My name was on it, written in messy, almost shaky handwriting. Inside was a single note. I wasn't always like that. No cash, no explanation. Just that. I tossed it in my locker, unsure what to do with it. Mr. Harris didn't get one. No one else did. Just me. Then weird stuff started happening. A man came in totally different from Frank, wearing jeans and a hoodie, maybe mid-30s. He ordered a burger, paid in cash, tipped $20 on a $10 meal, then asked if I remembered someone named Frank. When I didn't answer, he nodded like he already knew. He finished his food, left another 20 on the table, and walked out without another word. 2 days later, another person. This time an older woman. She ordered soup, barely touched it, asked the same question. Do you remember Frank Delaney? I started getting irritated. Why? She didn't answer. Just smiled and said, good. That means he's still talking about you. Then she left too. After the third one, a teenager who asked the same question and walked out mid-meal, I asked Mr. Harris if we were being watched or something. He shrugged it off. But he also told me to start logging those visits. He even printed out a clipboard and kept it by the register. Day after day, people kept coming. They never stayed long. Most didn't order. They all had that same question. One guy got bolder. Young, tall, with tattoos up both arms. He ordered black coffee, then leaned in and said, Frank says you're the only one who ever made him feel small. He said he sees you every time he closes his eyes. I didn't respond. He smiled. You should be proud. You broke someone unbreakable. That one left me rattled. I started to think maybe I had gone too far. Maybe that I'm just doing my job line hit deeper than I expected. But I pushed the guilt down. He played himself. Twice. Still, the visits kept coming. After a while, I started seeing some of the same people again. Like they were checking in. That's when the reporter showed up. She wore a gray trench coat, no makeup, looked like she hadn't slept in a week. She sat down, didn't order anything, and slid a small recorder across the table. I'm writing a piece, she said. About Frank Delaney. The real story. I laughed. I don't think I have anything worth printing. She leaned forward. He disagrees. He says you're the turning point. I stared at her. What kind of story is this? She hesitated. One that doesn't end well. Then she pulled out a photo. It was Frank, same suit, same face, lying on a bench, eyes closed. Not sleeping, passed out. Behind him, blurred in the distance, was a closed food bank sign. He's homeless. I asked quietly. Not exactly, but close. She paused. He's being followed. Not by the law, by people he owes. Real people. Dangerous ones. I didn't say anything. She took a breath. He says the moment everything fell apart was in this diner. When you said that line. He replayed it for me. Word for word. Why should I cover you? I'm just doing my job. He said it was the first time anyone told him no and meant it. I leaned back in the booth. So, he's convinced he needs to come back. To say something. He doesn't know what. He just keeps saying, I have to go back. I have to look her in the eye. My hands were cold. If he comes back, he won't get served. He's banned. She nodded. That's not why he wants to come back. Before she left, she handed me a second photo. It was taken outside a shelter. Frank, again. Same coat from that night he got kicked out. But this time, he was handing a sandwich to someone else. "He's changed," she said. "But people like him, they're not built to last outside their world. He's unraveling." I didn't sleep well that night. My brain kept going back to that smug grin, the empty tip line, the desperate look on his face the second time around. The way he stood there, silent, holding nothing. And now this stranger's walking in and out like actors in a play I didn't audition for. 2 nights later, we found a red envelope slid under the front door of the diner. Inside was a business card. Frank's name was crossed out. Underneath, in the same shaky handwriting from the note he sent me, was one word: wait. Now everyone, even the cook, was on edge. And none of us knew what we were waiting for. A week passed. Then 2. No Frank. No strangers asking questions. No letters, no envelopes. Just silence. The diner went back to normal. Customers laughed, regulars chatted, and we pretended things were fine. But every time the door creaked open, I looked up too fast, half expecting it to be him. Then came the storm. A brutal downpour hit Chicago one Thursday night. The kind that makes the streets shine with dirty water and pushes people inside wherever there's warmth. We were half empty. Just a few soaked couples eating quietly. And then he walked in. Frank. Same coat. Wetter now. Older somehow. Face thinner. Eyes sunken. He stood just inside the door, dripping all over the floor. People looked up but said nothing. Mr. Harris saw him first. "You need to leave." Frank raised a hand, not begging, just asking. "I'm not here for food." Mr. Harris didn't move. Neither did I. I was standing by the register. My heart pounded harder than it should have. Frank turned to me. "I just need one thing," he said. I didn't answer. "I need to apologize." Still, I said nothing. I heard a lot of people lied, cheated, took what I didn't earn. I deserved everything I got. He took one step forward. Mr. Harris did too. "But you," Frank looked at me. "You were the only one who didn't try to fix me. You just did your job." And it broke me in a way that made me see the truth. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded envelope, and held it toward me. "It's not money, just a letter. You don't have to read it. Just let me leave it with you." Mr. Harris looked at me. I gave the smallest nod. Frank set the envelope on the counter, nodded once, and turned to go. That's when the door flew open behind him. 2 men. Tall. One bald, one with a scar across his cheek. Both soaked to the bone, both with dead eyes. They scanned the room and spotted Frank instantly. He froze. The scarred one grabbed his arm. "Time's up." Frank didn't fight. He didn't scream. He just whispered, "Please, not here." But they dragged him out. Right out into the storm. One of them looked back at us, eyes like ice. Then they disappeared into the alley next to the diner. No one moved for 10 seconds. Then I ran. I didn't know why. Curiosity. Guilt. Something unfinished. I ran out into the rain, turned the corner into the alley, and stopped. Frank was on the ground, curled up, hands over his face. The bald one stood over him, shouting. The other had a crowbar. "You had your chance, Frankie," one of them snarled. "You think running around with sandwiches makes up for 10 years of screwing people over?" I should have walked away, but I stepped forward instead. "Stop." They turned. "What's this?" The bald one asked. "You a savior now?" "No," I said. "But I know what he did. He destroyed lives. Stole. Lied. Treated people like trash. He tried to act like he was above it all. And now you want what? Revenge? You want to hit him until it feels better." They stared at me like I was a ghost. "Go ahead," I said, voice shaking. "But he's already ruined. You think this helps?" "It doesn't. He lives in fear every second. You don't need to touch him to break him." They looked down at Frank. He didn't even raise his head. Just shivered in the puddle. Finally, the scarred one dropped the crowbar. "He's not worth it," he said. Then they left. I stood there, soaking wet, staring at the man who once laughed at me. Frank slowly sat up, coughing hard. I waited. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not just to you. To everyone. But especially to you." I didn't say anything. I just turned and walked back inside. Later, when my shift ended, I finally opened the letter. Inside was a single page. "There was a time I thought money made me untouchable. Then you reminded me I was just a man. I wanted revenge, then I wanted redemption. But maybe what I needed was to lose everything. If you're reading this, I probably disappeared for good. That's okay. I just wanted you to know. You were right to let me fall. You saved more people by doing nothing than I did trying to fix my mess. That truth hurts the most. Thank you." It didn't feel like closure. It felt like ashes. Like something heavy burned out. Sometimes revenge doesn't need fire. Sometimes it's just the silence that follows. And some people don't get a clean ending. They just fade.